Today I shall talk with y'all a little bit about parenting and Zen Buddhism and the art of parenting. Hey, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jack, you don't have any kids. What do you know about parenting? Well, those of you who are parents know that those of us with no kids know everything about parenting. We have all the answers to all your questions. We know exactly what you're doing wrong and how you could do it right to raise the absolutely perfect child. This is the gift that we childless adults have for those of you who are parents. I'm going to throw this gift out at you today. I'm going to tie this back into my Zen practice with my teacher, Joshu Suzaki Roshi, who had a whole stable of spiritual children, if you will, in us students. And I learned a lot about how to manifest from him. Manifest before those who are vulnerable and seeking some guidance and nutritive energies to grow up into their full selves. Or no selves in the case of Zen Buddhism. While it is true that I have no children myself, although there have been a couple of very close calls, I have had a parenting adjacent experience because my girlfriend Tony has a son. She and I got together, I guess it was almost 7 years ago, and so I've been able to experiencing parenting. I've been able to experience raising another human being, a child, through her and with her and sometimes alongside her. And we just dropped her 18-year-old son off at his new college in Zurich. And we visited the city with him. We walked along the river and we visited this beautiful, interesting biodome that's associated with the city of Zurich, the University of Zurich. ETH is where he's going. It's the Technical University in Zurich, and a really fantastic school. And as the weekend came to a close, I felt like we're giving this boy to the city of Zurich. This process reminded me of a moment in my ordination. I had invited my parents to come to my ordination as a Zen Buddhist monk at the Mount Baldy Zen Center. And surprisingly, they came. I was wondering if they would, and I was really glad they did, because my mom is Catholic and she, in the past, has not always been totally supportive of different religious ceremonies, experiments, or experiences. She tended to like things that were Catholic and Catholic alone, but nonetheless, she came. And my dad, who could give a damn about Zen and spirituality and religion in general, I think, also came. And there are, at a Tokudo Shiki Zen Buddhist ordination, 2 chairs, always right next to the Zen master who is conducting the ceremony. And even if your parents don't come, those 2 chairs are always there, and they're there for the parents. And at one point in the ceremony, the young acolyte who is receiving tonsure, getting their head shaved by the teacher, saying their vows, becoming a monk through this ritual, that monk, the new monk, will do these bows, 3 great bows right in front of their parents. And I remember doing those bows in front of my parents. And my teacher, Joshu Suzaki Roshi, was not big on explanations, and the senior monks also were not big on explanations. But what I later discovered was that those bows in front of one's parents at a Tokudo Shiki ceremony are goodbye bows. You're saying goodbye to your parents, and the teacher is now taking responsibility for you. So this is a Japanese Rinzai Zen ceremony, and within that context, it's traditionally been the case that it was very young men that were getting ordained. And so this was the ceremony where they said goodbye to their parents, and it was a ceremony where the teacher accepted full responsibility for the student. And as we said goodbye to my girlfriend's son this past weekend and left him in this new city, it really reminded me of that moment when, as a monk, you let go of your parents and your parents let go of you, and then you step into some greater responsibility for yourself and for your place in the world. The word for a Zen master in the Rinzai Zen tradition is Roshi. The word Roshi, I have been told, comes from the word Roshin, which means great, or dai, D-A-I, which means like great, dai parent. So it's like a great parent or a great wise old person. That's what the term Roshi translates into. And I'm not going to get into some of the more controversial aspects of my teacher's character. That's for another video. What I want to talk about instead is this experience many of us had with him of what a nun once told me she felt when she came into his private room for sanzen or one-on-one koan practice with him. She said, I remember going into this room and doing my great bows before him and getting up and looking at him and just feeling this blast of warmth. She said, it was the only time in my life I had experienced anything like that. And it took her a while to find the words for the experience, but when she did, it stuck with her and she never forgot it. Guess what those words were? There are two of them. Unconditional love. And she said, so many of us go through our whole lives without ever experiencing unconditional love. So what is unconditional love? I mean, most simply, it's love without conditions. But I think it's a love that allows you to be fully yourself, to bring your full self to the relationship. It's a love without strings or attachments or conditions, i.e., you have to do this and be this way, and then you will receive my full love. This is a love that is open and accepting and can hold you, all of your contradictions and your nastiness and your weirdness, all of your humanity from the start. Like, that's one way of looking at this beautiful gift that human beings can give each other of unconditional love. Unconditional love, I don't think means permissiveness. It means no ultimate judgments. So Roshi had a lot of discriminating awareness within his relationships with his different students, me, and his community at large. But I never felt like there was an ultimate judgment on me or another person. His heart was continually open. There was a clear channel between, well, in my case, between him and me. And I know a lot of other people had this experience too. Unconditional love is wise. Wise. And from the Zen Buddhist perspective, we could say that that means that it's not a clingy love, right? It's not a grasping love. You could say that unconditional love is like this manifestation of almost a kind of elegant distance. You fully respect the integrity of the creature before you. And what that means is you don't see their behavior or actions as a reflection on you or a reflection of you. Like, it's not about you. This can be like really, really hard, I think, for parents, because this child is of you. It is from you. It's from your body. You're there when the thing comes out, and you're the first person to hold it, unless those damn nurses grab it from you, right? And you take this child into your arms, and its heartbeat is synonymous with your heartbeat. And this just goes on for years and years. But one thing I've noticed with my girlfriend's son is, like, it's really amazing to watch a human being grow up. And kids grow up so quickly. This boy, my girlfriend's son, has grown up faster than the damn novel that I'm writing. Like, when I met him, I sort of started in this thing. I had the initial ideas, and I'm still working on it, and he's out of the house. They grow up really quickly. And what I've realized is you can't attach to this child. Like, you get used to them being a certain way, and then suddenly they come into the room and there's something new going on. And oftentimes it's very scary, or it's slightly unpleasant, or they are manifesting some new behavior that you think a person shouldn't manifest. And as parents, I see this all the time. I've watched it in myself, I've observed it in my girlfriend, I've seen it in my own parents, and I've seen it in my siblings who have children. We all do this. We try and shape or mold or push our ideas on the kid, or we try and make that person. It can be as your yoga student, or your students in school, for example. Any group of people or person that you're responsible for. Like, we feel like how they behave and how they manifest and who they are and how they stand before us is a reflection of and on us. And so we objectify them. Unconditional love does not objectify. It's right there with the person at that, like, the cusp of their being as they're changing, growing, morphing. Elegant distance. It allows them to be as they are, in front of and with you. So with the case of my girlfriend, it was interesting because early on I sort of felt like when she and I got involved that I should have, I just kind of felt some sort of like ambient responsibility in the air, and I grabbed onto it and said, I feel like we should, tell your son that we're dating, and, maybe I have to have some kind of a role in his life. And I remember my girlfriend, I got to give her credit for this. She was like, I don't like this conversation. And she just kind of was being honest with me. She was almost like sickened by it. And then I was kind of like, oh, I don't actually like it either. I don't want to be stepdad guy, And that set the tone for my relationship with her son, which was I got to let go of the idea that I was going to have a role as a parent or a step parent. I got to let go of that because that is a role I could very easily fall into. Like, I learned from my mom, hope she's not watching, that worrying is synonymous with caring. Worrying is not synonymous with caring. Worrying is not caring. And if I had taken on the role of parent, then I think I would have worried out loud a lot more about my girlfriend's son. And I don't think that would have been good at all for our relationship. Like, my role in his life has always been really, really hands off. Here's the deal. Like, I pay him a ton of attention, and I'm genuinely really curious about him. But that doesn't translate into advice or meddling. Now, he's a very good kid, so this is perhaps a unique case. But what a wonderful experience it was for me to just realize that paying this child attention, and not even in any overt and annoying way, because kids really do not like you to be in their business. They don't need you meddling. Just paying attention in your own mind, in your own heart towards the person, the child, makes a huge difference. They know they're being watched. They know they're being held by your attention. And I think it makes them confident, and it makes them feel safe, which is so important to kids. Like, you have to be the doormat that they get to walk on. Like, you're the foundation, and they get to the safe foundation that they get to rocket off into the stars from, right? So here's an example. So initially, my girlfriend's son, like every single solitary young person on the planet right now, was really into computer games. And if you're out there and you've got children, it ain't just your kid. Like, every boy on the planet right now, all they do is sit in their room with these expensive computers on these goofy chairs with neon vinyl and the massive headphones on their tiny little heads, and they're investing themselves in these profoundly complex worlds where they buy skins online with real money, and they run around in avatar wearing cloaks and having weapons and talking to their friends. And it's a whole universe that this generation is exposed to that I never was. I played Blip. There was a bar and a ball, and the ball hit the bar, and you moved the bar. There were two buttons, and that was video games when I was a kid. Not the case anymore. It's the reality that these kids are growing up in. And I remember thinking, I remember thinking, if I was in the role of parent and identifying with and as that role, I would be telling this kid, okay, we should limit your time. Okay, you shouldn't play too much. Okay, don't you want to read a book, right? But instead, I got the gift of just being able to watch him. And I watched him move through all these phases as a human being in that bedroom of his. The bedroom of a teenager is a laboratory. It's a laboratory where they are growing themselves, right? Like, and it smells like a laboratory of a growing teenage boy with all kinds of stuff, candy and gym sock odor, all of that. And as my girlfriend's son grew older, he began to grow up, and he began to outgrow certain video games and take on more complex and interesting video games, and then outgrow those. And then he took up guitar and skateboard, and then he outgrew that. And during the pandemic, he was in his room a lot, and I worried about that. I thought, well, is he gonna? I didn't really worry, but I thought if I was responsible for him, I would be worrying. And it was so wonderful to just sit back and let him do his thing. As the years went by, I had the wonderful opportunity of watching my girlfriend's son totally outgrow all these different phases he was going through entirely on his own. And he did it completely without any advice, any prompting, or any stepdad meddling from me. He naturally 100% on his own went through the experience and came out the other side and was a little bit more adult every time. And so that was another good lesson in unconditional love. It's patient, eternally patient. I remember I was friends with this monk, Sokai. He was really a beautiful man. And I remember he was at odds with another monk somewhat. And this other monk, like Sokai, was a long-term student of my teacher, Sasaki Roshi. I remember Sokai telling me, God, Roshi is so patient with that guy, because this student was a huge pain in the ass. And retreat after retreat after retreat, Roshi would spend 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes a day working just with this problematic student. And Sokai was like, he's been doing this for 37 years and the guy hasn't changed at all. He's so patient. And then he paused and he said, it's not really patience, because it really is eternal. He's just there with him. He's not waiting for something to happen, waiting for change to happen, which is what patience implies. He's just there with him. And I think about that now as I think about my relationship with my girlfriend's son. Again, because I wasn't asked to assume the role of stepdad or parent. I was able to just be there with him and be with him. And the guy went through all of his changes on his own, and he grew up on his own, and he didn't need any advice from me. He became an adult. That's what kids do. And that's what I think unconditional love is. You're never waiting for the person to change. You're with them as they are, moment after moment after moment. You're not trying to get them to be something else. You're there with them exactly as they are. And they can feel it, because you mean it. Your love is real. Well, this started out as a video about parenting in Zurich, and somehow it's become a video about unconditional love. And I'm not sure how that happened exactly, but that phrase came up in me, and it was like, I don't know, it was like when the clouds clear and the bright sun comes through. I really wanted to stand in the heat and warmth of that phrase this morning. In closing, I'm reminded of my teacher and how he used to manifest and behave in a way that really kind of set the tone for me when it comes to this idea of unconditional love. Like, I don't think unconditional love really has anything to do with how you feel, okay? Like, how you feel changes, you know, it comes and it goes, and sometimes you feel really warmly and strongly towards a person, and other times you don't feel it at all. My teacher was a Zen master, and it was his job and his practice, his Zen practice, to continually manifest as a Dai, or a great parent, a wise old person. And a key component of that seems to have been, no matter who is in front of you, manifest this unconditional love. So it's not about what you feel, it's about what you manifest, what you bring to the world or the person in front of you. And I think you can learn to be a person who manifests unconditional love. And let's just say that we, or at least I, came away with 3 ideas or lessons or hints, insights into unconditional love today. Number 1, don't judge, ever. Manifest patience, forever. Number 2, don't meddle, just pay attention. And from that attention, the person can see themselves and adjust accordingly. Number 3, unconditional love is not about how you feel. It's a principle that you can put into practice. I'm reminded of that image I have of doing those bows before my parents at my ordination. It was like this mutual moment of letting go, letting us be in relationship together without having to exist in relation to each other according to our roles. It was a surrender of the role. Maybe when it comes to unconditional love, there are no roles between people. We can bask in our fullness together. When the roles fall away, like the real person emerges, and it's so much more interesting. Well, friends, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support this channel, you can go to the URL I am pointing to right here, patreon.com/OzonJackHobner. That's moi. I offer these videos, however, for free. But we've got some good things going on over on Patreon, like some Sunday sits, as well as I've got essays and blog posts, and it's just a great community over there. So join me on Patreon if you want to support this channel. Otherwise, you can hit like and subscribe. There's also a Patreon link in the video description below, as well as a link to PayPal if you'd like to support me there. I offer these videos for free, but I do appreciate the help you can offer to keep this channel alive and going. Thank you. That was a real putter out of an ending.